Hello, greetings and welcome, my dear listeners. My name is Heretical Hatter and I bid you welcome this day, bringing you a small announcement. I'm very close to finishing the Species of a Coalition series. In fact, I already wrote lore for all remaining species, so now the only thing left is to record them. Which means that I get to turn my focus towards the next project. Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite. I have some pieces already in place, but I will need to dedicate some additional time to plan it out, keep timeline stable, figure out Imperial forces and make sure that overall battles make sense as well. What to show, what to leave, etc, etc, etc. It will take a bit of time, but I hope I will manage to show what I want while slowly pushing the narrative forward, figuring some things as I go. It's hard to plan out a multi-year long campaign after all. But this isn't the only reason why I make this announcement. No, I made this video to ask you a few questions and hopefully hear your answers. Especially since we grew in number since we discussed it last time. First thing first. Do you want me to focus on Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite right away, or do you want to see other types of videos? I have an idea for a few alternatives. A critique of Phil Kelly's writing in regards to the Tau lore, comparison of clone troopers from Star Wars and Tau fire warriors, as I figured out that they share surprising amount of similarities. Maybe even critique of A Fan with Too Much Time and his Star Wars vs Warhammer 40k series. Fun fact, he was my main inspiration behind starting the YouTube channel. I am a fan of his work for quite some time, but that doesn't mean that he is free from constructive critique. Or maybe something else. You can drop your ideas in the comments. Second thing, how do you envision Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite? Should I focus on the crusade itself only, or give more screen time to the background and overall preparations of Crusade? It's just a matter of preference. I personally enjoy political intrigue and machinations behind the scenes, and I think that dedicating more time to it could be interesting. Give me your answers below and on a poll I will open on my channel. Third and most important thing, it's me asking for your financial help. I want to commission some art pieces from artists and most likely buy a subscription to one of the AI art generators to create additional, less complex art for this series. For that, I need your help. Money sent through Buy Me a Coffee will be spent for art pieces for the series. At least for now. I'm not going to lie, I would be extremely happy if I could start earning money from making videos. But as of this moment, all of it will be directed to art commissions and will be seen as a main budget for the series. To be clear, it's not that I have no money at all and I can't afford anything. That would be a lie. But I also don't take baths in giant piles of gold. I can afford AI art, it's not that expensive. But if we are looking at professional commissions, there I'm unsure if I'm comfortable with too much spending. Artists' work costs money, and I'm happy to pay the price as long as I don't bankrupt myself in the process. I do have contact with many artists. Maximo created art for all xenospecies in the Coalition by choice. He joined my crazy Tau Reimagined project and created all this art for me. I promised that I would make an entire series showing off his art and promoting his skill. I am man of my word. Species of the Coalition series wouldn't exist without Maximo. I could ask him for more art, but I don't want to trap him in my project. That wouldn't be fair. He already did so much for my series, and I wouldn't ask for more without proper compensation. Jaron C. Swenson made art of a few Void vehicles for my series, for which I'm very grateful. He specialized in mechs, but I think he did a magnificent job with both characters and ships he made. A 3D model artist, Shape, gave me permission to use his 3D models and art in my project, which is fantastic because I love what he came up with. I also have contact with few other artists, including Jesus da Silva, who created for me this little art for my personal story, Fateless, which is currently on hold. As you can see, it's really bloody good. His work is worth the price. So, if you decide to support Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite, you can expect more art pieces and higher quality of the series. I will do my best to spend this money to make your experience more enjoyable. The link to Buy Me Coffee is in the description and the pinned comment below. Now, I would feel bad if this was the announcement alone. That's why I will give you a sneak peek into Damocles Gulf Crusade Rewrite. This small piece of intended prologue of the series, a teaser, if you will. Enjoy! Stone walls surrounded them on all sides. There were no windows, no electric lights. Candles were placed in seemingly random places, revealing shapes carved into the stone. Figures, names, prayers, oaths, and runes of protection. A singular golden letter I hung above the table, standing in the middle of the room. 4 figures sat at the round table. 2 more chairs were empty. The inactive holographic display was interconnected with the heart of the table. Unmoving servitor fused into the blessed machine. The people at the table were silent, but alert. Some wore simple robes, some were wearing blessed power armor, decorated with prayer seals and markings of faith. Sigils of their office clear on display for all to see. Each and every one of them were agents of a God's Emperor's Holy Inquisition. People who could save entire worlds or ensure their doom with but a word. 2 of them were in quiet staring contest. One looked on in disdain and suspicion, while the other looked back with mild irritation. The remaining 2 seemed to simply wait, and nothing else, ignoring the silently growing tension. The doors opened, and one more person strode right in. All turned to regard him. Some observed him in silence, some gave respectful nods, yet the silent tension was palpable. They already knew that something went wrong. Their suspicions were confirmed as a tall man dressed in simple dark robes with a silver thread didn't sit down, but remained standing in front of the biggest and most decorated of all chairs. He was old, yet wore a face of a far younger man. His robes were luxurious, yet plain, utilitarian in their simplicity, and deceptive enough that few noticed the hidden flexible armor hidden under it. He looked between them, his eyes stopping at the empty seat, before he released a sigh. "Gallius is dead," Lord Inquisitor Veiviel du Bastal proclaimed in deep baritone. 2 Inquisitors remained silent. One sighed with a note of sadness, and one murmured a curse under her breath. A man covered in black robes looked up at Bastal. His crow-black hair and beard contaminated with silver, his green eyes full of focus, yet clear sadness as well.
How?
Baltic Otvar asked in quiet whisper.
He attempted to lead loyalists' elements on Mahilius Prime in an act of rebellion against the traitorous governor and his Xenos friends.
Was Lord's Inquisitor simple answer.
He failed.
The female Inquisitor, covered in crimson power armor of Sisters of Battle, rose to her feet, ceasing her cursing. Gallius was hot-headed but not an idiot. Antarine Arain said with fire in her voice and hidden pain in her eyes. He wouldn't attempt to bring back a world into the Emperor's light if he wasn't sure he had a clear chance, she insisted. Remaining Inquisitors nodded their agreement, and Lord Inquisitor sighed once more.
He miscalculated,
Bastal answered.
The Xenos had a hidden force on the planet. Air and ground forces. Far more than he expected. The forces he led lacked enough anti-air weaponry to counter the sudden airy raid. They were bombed into oblivion right after they left the city he managed to liberate from the traitors. He survived and managed to retreat, but was cut down by traitor units supported by Xeno ground forces. Evacuation was impossible, with traitors having full air supremacy. His ship escaped the system when Xeno fleet appeared on their sensors. Only one of his interrogators survived. He brought those news to me 2 days ago.
Lord Inquisitor answered.
I decided to take him under my wing. He shall finish his training and hopefully take the place of his master in a few years. Or a decade.
There was a long moment of silence. A bald man wearing impressive power armor rubbed his chin in contemplation. The Blessed Aquila was tattooed on his bald head in golden ink. His face was one of scars and passage of time. His pair of purple eyes were full of focus and piety, and when he spoke, each syllable was one of might so great it echoed like a song from the stone walls.
So, the Xenos feel safe enough to put a garrison on rebellious worlds within Imperial space?
Thaddeus Shoke asked with a raised eyebrow.
Bold and unexpected. It was a very small force, something closely resembling a company of Imperial Guard, maybe few of such units. They were few in number, but very well trained. Their exact numbers aren't clear. The interrogator had to retreat before he could examine enemy forces. With his mentor dead and Xenos closing in, it was the only reasonable action.
Was Bastal's answer. Otvar punched the table, his face contorted in grimace of fury and irritation.
Fool.
Baltic shook his head, getting everyone's attention.
Vainglorious, hot-headed fool.
Arain Antarine of Ordo Hereticus stood up, her crimson power plate growling alongside the rage of her owner. "You dare!" she shouted, with a fire of rage blazing in her eyes. "He did what the Emperor demands of us. He fought against the accursed Xenos who dared to challenge his divine rule. Grisha subsector has already fallen into their hands before we could do anything to stop it. Titania subsector is falling as we speak. It was his duty to resist." Otvar looked back, his eyes filled with cold contempt. "We all agreed to gather our resources influence, and power to challenge this new threat. Now our conclave is missing one member. His resources, connections, and influence gone with him. He slowly stood up, silver strands in his beard shining in the candlelight. We agreed to meet here, to plan out our next move, not to jump into the unknown. Not only that, his rash actions most likely warned the enemy. This could mean that we just lost the advantage of surprise. I will not spare criticism of the dead when their actions could doom our future plans. Arain didn't back down, quite the opposite. She leaned in, the hilt of a power sword clear everyone to see. Most mortals would think her superior to a man covered in nothing but black robes. Those more perceptive would notice a set of most peculiar rings on Otfar fingers. Jokero made wonders, each capable of unleashing enough power to melt a tank. You speak of cowardice, Arain spat, her plate growling. But what else should I expect from a radical who keeps Xenos as pets, despite his oath to bring an end to their menace? Otfar seemed unmoved by the accusations. He heard it all more times than he cared to count. I speak of caution. Gallius threw himself at the enemy and lost his life for it, achieving nothing. In fact, his actions might have alerted the enemy. He answered, "We are Inquisitors, not Black Templars. We don't throw ourselves at the problem with abandon. We use proper tools to cut the infection from the Emperor's domain." He made a point of looking down at his rings. Don't criticize me for using the most efficient tools for the task. I will cut the narration here. More to come in all due time. If you can, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you want to support me, buy me a coffee. I would appreciate it quite a lot. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself while you can. I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!